Well, well, well. Welcome to episode 4 of the Imagine the Pop Wrestling Podcast. Thank you for joining us wherever you are. If you're streaming, if you're downloading, if you're on Spotify, we're just about to launch on YouTube. So if you found us on YouTube, hi, welcome. Great to have you here. This is Imagine the Pop, a wrestling podcast. My name is Matty B, and we talk all things WWE. We go through the news, we recap the shows, we preview, we discuss opinions, we preview upcoming shows, we do predictions, we do the lot. And it's great to have you here, and we do it with fun, we do it with kindness, we try and be as positive but as honest as possible. And it's a very exciting time because, as you may know if you're listening to this week, or if you can see the date stamp, this is WrestleMania week. We are less than 1 week away as I record this on Monday the 27th of March. 6 days away from night one of WrestleMania. Come on, this is exciting. This is for wrestling fans, this is the week. We've got Monday Night Raw tonight. We've got NXT tomorrow night. We've got Smackdown and the Hall of Fame on Friday night. We've got NXT Stand and Deliver Saturday morning. We've got WrestleMania Night 1 Saturday night. We've got WrestleMania Night 2 Sunday night. And then we've got the Monday after Raw. We've got the Raw, no. We've got the Raw after Mania on Monday night. This is a week of all weeks, and it is very exciting. The matches we have lined up for WrestleMania, the feuds that we've got going, the builds that we've got going, it is so exciting. There are so many matches that could steal the weekend this weekend. But before we get there, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We've got to go through Smackdown. Smackdown this last Friday night. What was it? 24th of March. Let's get into it. Let's go through it. Let's talk about the good and the bad. What, how exciting was it? How many things moved forward? How many things felt stalled? But before we get into all of that, as always, we've got to start with the news. Now, as regular listeners to the podcast know, I like to split the news into two sections. We have our narrative news, which is the storyline news, which is the news that WWE want us to know about, want us to be aware of as part of the through line from episode to episode. And then we have the other news, the more speculative news, the rumors, the behind the scenes, the more unguarded, out of character elements. So, because we love, as wrestling fans, we love the speculation as well as the story and the drama. So let's start with the narrative news first. And there's going to be a bit of a theme this week. It's going to be Ronda Rousey. And this happened on Smackdown, so I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but it's the main news for this week that is big news, which is that Ronda Rousey will be at WrestleMania performing in a match. Now, she had posted on Instagram that she wasn't medically cleared to fight. She had said that she had a few things wrong with her ACL and whatnot, and that she was willing to fight, but the medical team wouldn't clear her. And then 24 hours later, she shows up on SmackDown, which we'll talk about in a moment, with Shayna Baszler, and announces that she and Shayna are going to be part of the 4 tag team women's showcase match. There must be a better way. The showcase tag team match, fatal 4-way tag team match. There you go. Fatal 4-way tag team match at WrestleMania. So, big news. Ronda been missing for a few weeks. Was supposedly out injured. There's been a lot of rumours about what she was supposed to be doing or not doing for this Mania. Was she supposed to be fighting Rhea Ripley? Was she supposed to be going for the tag titles with Shayna? But it turns out this is what they're doing, and they've done it in a nice way. We'll talk about it more when we get to this part of the SmackDown recap, but there's a bit of a nice story as to how they've kind of pulled this together. So yeah, exciting times. Ronda is now on the WrestleMania card. So that's the narrative news. But in other news, something else that Ronda has posted on her Instagram, and I'm not sure if she's doing this deliberately to try and generate some buzz because she feels that she's been forgotten a little bit. I'm not sure. But she posted on her Instagram about being injured, And now she's just done an episode of what she's calling Ronda on the Road, which seems to be a little Instagram series of 2-3 minute backstage videos of Ronda talking while she's out on the road with WWE. And it seems to be a few months behind because it's her when she was in an arena and she had a promo segment with Liv backstage and then with Natty by herself live on the show. She's not done that for a little while, so this was probably a few months ago. But the interesting thing, there's two things. One, the content of the video, which is where she shoots on what she was going to say in a live promo about Liv Morgan and about the women's evolution, where she claims, and you know there's a reasonable argument, where she says that when she won the UFC title, she started a women's revolution in sport that then WWE repackaged as the women's evolution. And then Ronda came into the WWE. They had their own pay-per-view. They did all these things. And so it's a strange one where Ronda is almost taking credit for the entire women's revolution or evolution within the WWE over the last 6-7 years. And there's no doubt that she was a massive part of it. There's no doubt that she gave massive credibility to it and massive visibility and eyeballs, and her first run in WWE was very, very impressive. Whether she can take credit for the whole thing, because there was lots of development already moving within WWE. There was lots of growth on the NXT side for the women's division. You can't just build a revolution around one person. There had to be a full division. There had to be multiple other people there. And you'd argue that if Ronda had come in by herself with a very weak division, it just would have been the Ronda show. Whereas the fact that she came in with such a breadth of talent, like Sasha, like Charlotte, like Bayley, like Becky, and so many others, that, so I think she's maybe over-exaggerating, and I'm wondering if in that video it's a little ambiguous. It's a little ambiguous as to whether she's talking in truthful opinion of what she really thinks, or if it's a promo, because she does say it in line of a promo where she talks smack about Liv Morgan, and so, but it's a blurred line. So it's very interesting. But then, in the caption that accompanies the video, she then talks about how her feud with Liv was botched by the WWE creative. And not just by creative, but she quotes, by the octogenarians in creative, who only spend 5 minutes thinking about the women's storyline. Now, I know over the last few weeks, through the build to WrestleMania, not just myself, but a few on the internet have, a number of fans have been questioning the effort that WWE have put into the women's storylines in the build-up to WrestleMania. It seems like of all the storylines that are going on, of all the feuds that are running through to WrestleMania, the women's ones are the ones that have been left behind. So you've got Bayley and Damage Control against Becky, Trish and Lita. And honestly, if there hadn't been 3, 4, 5 months worth of Becky and Bayley, and if it didn't have just Trish and Lita for name recognition, it's a non-3-on-3 match. And then you've got Rhea and Charlotte. There's so much talent there. There's essentially been one good promo segment, which was last week when they did their brawl on SmackDown. The rest of it is a bit messy, and we'll talk more about that in a moment on the recap. And then you've got the Oscar and Bianca feud, which again feels muted, feels just, a face versus a face. This is just how we build it. There'll kind of be a little bit of tension, but nothing major. And it's a bit of a non-event. Whereas on the men's side, you've got Roman and Cody on the Bloodline. You've got KO, Sami and the Usos. You've got Edge versus Finn Balor in Hell in a Cell. You've got Brock versus Omos. You've got John Cena and Austin Theory. You've got the IC triple threat match with Gunther and Sheamus and Drew. All of these matches, There's more matches as well, but all of those matches that I've just mentioned, they could all headline. You've got Ray and Dom. I've not even talked about Ray and Dom yet, although that, that is a little spoiler for the recap later on. Everyone knew that was going to happen. Everyone knew that's where that was going. But yeah, all of those matches could easily, the way they have built them, easily all be main event matches. Now, there won't be, because you can only have 2 main event matches across 2 nights. But all of those matches are male matches. And it is hard to argue when you look at those matches versus the women's matches and the build and the creative and the time and the story that's been given to those 6, 7 matches, those 8 matches that I just listed off versus the 3 women's matches. It is, you can see the difference. You can. So when Ronda says in this caption, and she has a go at the WWE creative, and she says the reason why her feud with Liv was let down was the poor creative. It's hard to argue, but it's also quite ballsy of her to come out and say it publicly. Now, you could argue that Ronda, being who she is in a very special position. She's made her money. She doesn't need the WWE. Potentially is an argument to say that now the WWE doesn't need her. Now their women's evolution is really up and running. But it's always interesting when WWE have a high profile name and they start shooting like this. Was it approved? Was it not? Is it something that Ronda can get away with whereas someone else couldn't? Is it a shoot promo that Triple H has approved to help Ronda kind of build some of that heat and that interest again? Because when she comes back properly from injury, is she going to get a proper push? But it's an interesting one. Either way, it's interesting just to hear Ronda's side of things, because I think we all agreed that the whole handover with her and Liv, and then Liv losing the title again, and then Ronda having the title, but then losing to Charlotte as soon as Charlotte came back. There's may well reasons, may well injuries, may well scheduling, who knows. It has felt a bit messy. The women's division on SmackDown has felt a bit messy for a little while, which is surprising considering the talent that you've got there. So, interesting. Be great to hear what you think as well. As always, our handle on TikTok and Twitter is Imagine the Pop. Be great to hear your thoughts. But everyone, that's your news. But right now, it's time to get into the main event, which is the SmackDown recap. And overall, it was a good show. There was lots of good things in it. There was good matches. There was good promos. It felt a little bit of a filler. There was maybe only 1 or 2 things that really moved forward in any major way, which I've already alluded to earlier in the show. But let's get into it. Let's talk it through as we go. And interestingly, for the first time in a little while, I think, from if memory serves, we kicked off SmackDown with a match, straight into a match. And so the first thing we hear is the entrance music for one Cody Rhodes. There is more than one royal family in professional wrestling. Oh, yes. And this was a good entrance because we seem to be building week after week that section of Cody's entrance music when he stops and he lifts up his hands for the pyros and the music does the wow. And the crowd seem to be getting into it more and more and more every single week. And this week, genuinely, a good crowd. Biggest pop for that section of the song, a big chant from the crowd. And so Cody comes down and obviously all smiles, doing everything that he normally does. He gives his weight belt, etc. And I'm sure for timing purposes, Ludwig, Kiezer and Giovanni Vinci from Imperium are already in the ring waiting for him so they can get straight into the match. And Ludwig Kiezer we've not seen much of him in Imperium. They've not done that much of their tag team recently. But it's nice to see them wrestling individually. Because Kiezer, he's good. He's a good talent. Got lots of potential there. And I think, as I said on the Raw recap episode this last week, it's really interesting that we're starting to, after what seems like months of lots of tag team matches or lots of faction interferences within singles matches, we're starting to get a lot of single matches now. We're starting to get a lot of one-on-one matches, almost to really prove the individual talent, to give them the opportunity to run an entire singles match by themselves on TV. And it's really refreshing, and I really enjoyed it. And so Cody and Kiezer had a genuine one-on-one match. There was a couple of moments where Giovanni Vinci did get involved, but they were very slight. It was like a minor distraction of the referee one time. But of course, yes, it was a solid match, but it's Cody Rhodes, 1 week till WrestleMania. There were other things that happened. So not only was Giovanni Vinci ringside, but also Paul Heyman came out to cause a little bit of distraction. And then Solo Sikoa came out to cause a bit more of distraction. And for me, this was really good because there was no direct interference into the match. It was still Cody versus Kiezer, but you had the visual and you had the atmosphere and you had the tension of essentially Cody as the lone man against four people. And it's only subtle, but that's key for a face. For a face, for a good guy, he needs to be fighting against the odds. He needs to be struggling. He needs to be coming up against an unfair situation and still overcoming. That's why we love him, and it also proves how strong he is. That, he wasn't just number 30 in the Rumble, and so he was the freshest competitor and got the win over the most tired competitor, which was Gunther, who came in at number 1. That he's actually worth his spot. That he's actually a genuine threat to Roman Reigns. So having him there, essentially with 4 people against him, Kiezer in the ring and then 3 around the outside, was a good visual, was a good story point. But Cody being Cody, road to WrestleMania, number 1 contender. Of course, Cody won. Got the crossroads, got the pin, and the end to a decent match. But then obviously we go straight into a promo with Paul Heyman and Solo just standing up on the apron, and tired Cody kind of going backwards and forwards with him. Heyman having his say, announcing that Cody would be one-on-one with Solo Sikoa this coming Monday night on Raw. But not only that next week on SmackDown, Friday night, the night before WrestleMania, that Roman Reigns would be there in person to go face-to-face with Cody. Not in a match. I imagine it'll be some promo that maybe breaks down into some kind of physical brawl, some kind of contact just to build the anticipation for their match. But yeah, so big news. One-on-one with Solo Sikoa, which should be a really good match for Raw. And then Roman Reigns on SmackDown next week. So yeah, good promo, good start to the show. And then the announcement team, Michael Cole, announces that John Cena versus Austin Theory will kick off night 1 of WrestleMania. Now, there's been a lot of talk online as to which match should be where. Obviously, Roman and Cody is going to main event night 2. Who should main event night 1? At the minute, it looks like it's going to be Charlotte and Rhea, although lots of people think it should be KO versus the Usos. But you've got so many big names in this year's WrestleMania. As I mentioned earlier, so many potential headliners that where are you going to fit them all that makes sense? And honestly, building a card is a skill in itself. Booking a card is a skill in its sense as to which matches, which talents do you put at which point on the card. Where are you going to put the Hell in a Cell match? Because that's going to be massive, and that's going to take a lot of oxygen out of the cards. So how do you balance that, and who's going to come immediately before it and after it? So there's loads of ifs and buts, and what do you do here and there. So it's going to be a challenge to balance this card out because it's such a strong card. But the announcement that John Cena and Austin Theory for the US title is going to kick off night 1 is interesting, is exciting. I've heard wrestlers say before that if you're not going to main event, the next one you want to be is the opener. That's like the next best piece. And when you have someone like John Cena, who pretty much always main events, if he's not going to main event, then this is probably the place that you put him in. Some jokes online about the reason why he's going first is because he needs to get out straight away to go on a promo tour for some movie. He's got Fast X coming out soon. So I don't know if that's the reason. But John Cena, main event star, coming out as number one. And match one, night one, setting the tone for the whole weekend. It's going to be electric. The crowd, as soon as that music hit, is going to be on fire. Hopefully, we'll get a really strong showing in the match to match it as well. So, yeah, exciting time. Cena Theory kicking off night one. And then after that, we got a promo from Charlotte Flair. And I have to be honest, this was a strange one. This was a strange one for me. And as I was watching it, I was confused. Because Charlotte Flair is a face. That's what she's been billed as ever since she came back, took the title off Ronda. She's been pitched as a face. She's been winning against bad guys. Her first program was with Sonya Deville, who was very definitely in heel mode. But the way Charlotte delivered this promo, it was a heel promo. It felt like heel Charlotte. So, and the reason why it felt like heel Charlotte is because the things that she was talking about and the way she went about it. Because heel Charlotte Flair is all about arrogance. She's the queen, she's the best, she knows she's the best, and she's going to hold it over everybody in quite an arrogant way. Now, that is a really hard needle to thread when you're a face. To go around, and for me, John Cena had this a little bit in his promo with Austin Theory a few weeks ago, where John Cena is the ultimate babyface, but yet the nature of his promo was quite heel-ish and quite condescending. But it's John Cena, so he kind of pulled your way through it, and in the promo packages, WWE have cut around it, and so, you know, Cena still looks like the babyface that he is. So with this one, it was really strange with Charlotte Flair. And again, I'd love to hear what you think if you saw it on YouTube or if you saw it live. Charlotte Flair's promo. Interesting, it was just her. Rhea Ripley didn't appear, which for me was a bit of a shame because their segment last week was such a shot in the arm, was so good for their feud. The brawl, the kind of fighting, the pose from Charlotte in the ring, Rhea coming out, coming along at the end and sticking her tongue out and having that face that she pulls, that kind of maniacal, she loves the pain type face, she loves the brutality. That was a really good segment, and it feels like this has brought it backwards because it was a bit of a non-event and it's Charlotte playing a bit of a heel. It's really weird. If you have, and I know I'm going on about this a bit, but I am just genuinely confused, and so I'm trying to work this out with you. When you have a face versus a heel, Charlotte versus Rhea, you have the face do face type things and the heel do heel type things. So you'd have Rhea Ripley come out and attack Charlotte before a match, after a match, during a match, get her disqualified. Charlotte's defending a title. She's having a really good match with another face, with Liv Morgan, but then Rhea comes out and ruins it. Or Rhea attacks her backstage. Or just something that a heel would do to generate that heat. Rhea's done none of that. Rhea has come out and had a couple of promos, face to face, where the most meat on the bone from a story point of view is that Rhea wants respect. She wants Charlotte to fear her. She wants to be the champion so that she can be a star. That's not the biggest heel style story or motivation to be a star. And she's not even come across in a arrogant, brattish way, the way that Austin Theory is doing. She's just almost coming across and saying, I'm good and I want to show the world how good I am. So Rhea's not been that much of a heel. And because of what we talked about last week, the way that they've presented Charlotte as a face, Charlotte's not been the biggest face either. And because Rhea's not been doing the heel stuff of attacking her and whatnot, we've not had Charlotte have to do the good guy bit of overcoming injustice or getting injured and needing to fight against the odds. So it's been a bit of a strange one to this point. And then you have this promo. And then you have this promo. See, I'd come back to it. Don't worry. I was coming back to it. I wasn't lost. Where she references nepotism. And she references the other women in the locker room. Now, the whole thing with Charlotte, I love Charlotte. I think she's amazing. But everyone thinks she's had so many opportunities and she's won so many titles because she's Ric Flair's daughter. And that's almost, for me, that's a toxic point for her as a character. But yet she referenced it straight up. And I get what she was trying to do. She was trying to own it. She was trying to own it and say, yes, my dad was amazing. One of the best ever to do it, and I'm honouring his legacy. And kind of that Cody Rhodes, Dusty Rhodes angle. Right, I get it. It just didn't come across that way. Because I think she's effectively delivered the same promo because this promo was, I'm the best, I deserve this title, I'm gonna retain and continue to be the best. Fine. But she's done that exact same promo as a heel so many times. It felt such a familiar heel promo. So that when she's referencing things like nepotism, it feels like the heel side of Charlotte. And then the crowd were getting involved and getting overexcited, and so they started doing the what chants. And Charlotte, to be fair to her, she took on the crowd head on and stopped the what chants, but she reacted almost like a heel would do, offended that the crowd would dare to shout what at her. And again, it felt a bit like heel Charlotte telling off the crowd as opposed to face Charlotte playing with the crowd and playing off the crowd in a fun way. It felt a bit strange. Overall, it was a bit of a weird one, and she ended the promo saying that she was going to retain the title. Fine. And then that was it. Like, Rhea didn't show up, nothing. So I know I've gone on about this for a little bit, but it was just really strange. I'd love to hear what you guys think of it. At Imagine the Pop on Twitter and TikTok. Is this Charlotte face run working? Does she need to go back to heel? Does creative need to be stronger in the storylines to push the face angle? Let me know what you think. I mean, regardless, the match at WrestleMania, Charlotte and Rhea it'll be fire because they're both fantastic talents. But yeah, the character work, the build, the script, it has been a bit strange. Anyway, from something that was a little bit murky to something that is just positively awesome on every level. Next, we had a matchup between Rey Mysterio and LA Knight. Yeah! Oh, my word. Hopefully you've seen online, that is just going around like wildfire. I saw this video of this group of guys doing Call of Duty, and just the whole time over the comms we're just going, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just, yeah, it's going all over the place. LA Knight is definitely getting over with everybody. He's doing really well post Bray Wyatt feud. Rumors say that he is going to get a big push really soon, and I wouldn't blame them. I'm not sure how, because you've got a heel as your IC title champion, you've got a heel as your world champion. I don't know where the room is for him to go, but nonetheless, he's getting a good push in the near future, or so we would believe. And he had his match with Rey Mysterio tonight, so a good match with a really good talent. It started off a little wobbly. You could visibly see LA Knight calling the match and talking to Rey. So it started off a bit wobbly, but then it got better as the match went on, and it was a good, strong match. Rey did well, as you'd expect, because it's Rey Mysterio. And then halfway through the match, Dominic comes out again, as you'd expect, building their storyline. And Dominic does some initial light distraction, but then eventually does a full-on trip for Ray as he's about to deliver the 619. And then whilst Ray's distracted, shouting at Dom, LA Knight rolls him up for the 1-2-3. So a really good win for LA Knight over a talent like Rey Mysterio. So we were saying last week about how LA Knight, if he is to get a push, needs to start winning. So it was good to see LA Knight get the win. But also this moved continued the Ray and Dom story. And again, as we've seen time and time again, Dom disrespects Ray with his promo, pushes him, trying to get the fight. Again, Ray says, no, I'm not going to fight you at Mania. But this week, as Dom had said on Raw, this week, the Dom's mum, or mom, as you say in the US, and sister were ringside in Las Vegas. And so when Ray walked off, Dom decided to go and talk smack to his own mum and sister. And at one point, shouted right in his mum's face, "Shut up, Mom!" And at this point, that's when Ray, who was halfway down the entranceway, turned back around. And I'm telling you, the crowd throughout this whole segment was electric. Dom was getting so much heat. He was getting so many boos. He genuinely is the next most hated man after Roman Reigns at the minute. It's crazy. He legit is the second biggest heel after Roman Reigns, who's the biggest name in the company. This storyline has been played out so well, has been done so well. Dom was getting so much heat, and when he shouted at his mum, oh my word, the crowd. And then Ray, obviously at this, made his way back down the entranceway, around the ring, and finally laid Dom out. Finally punched him. Dom fell to the floor with a look of shock and horror. The crowd went crazy. The pop was ridiculous. Genuinely the biggest pop of the night for me when I was watching the show. I popped in my seat. I popped in my seat, shouting, yes! Hands in the air. So a great moment. Culmination of months of storytelling. A really, really good payoff. And then Ray grabbed the mic and said, look, that's your mum, but that's also my wife. You've gone too far. Let's do it. WrestleMania, you're on. I'm going to teach you a lesson. And so it's official. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio at WrestleMania. We all knew it was happening. We just didn't quite know when or how, but yes, it's definitely happening. And it's going to be a great match. It's going to be one of the best and biggest of the weekend. And you can see WWE think that by the graphic that they've put out. You know WWE think it's going to be a big match when they put the moving graphics on the match promo, when it's the name versus name and it's got the pay-per-view artwork behind it. You've got moving graphics for a few of the big fights, and you've got moving graphics for Ray versus Dom. So this is going to be a big one. I really can't wait. The atmosphere in the stadium is going to be electric. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be fantastic. So yeah, a great segment on SmackDown, a great payoff, and yeah, exciting times. So after the highs of Ray and Dom, you then came down to, unfortunately, a bit of a low point, a bit of a muted point, which was a fatal four-way showcase qualifier match for the women's tag match at WrestleMania. That name is really convoluted. I'm gonna have to get better at figuring that out. What is it? The women's showcase fatal four-way tag match. There you go. That's the name. And it was another qualifier. So the team that have already qualified, which is Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan, they were out at ringside to watch, to observe. And then in the match itself, you had Lacey Evans versus Xia Li and Natalia and Shotzi. Now, it's interesting. Lacey Evans and Xia Li, you could be forgiven for forgetting they were even on the roster, to be honest, because Xia Li has been nowhere for months, and Lacey Evans has had so many comebacks to try and repackage her as a face and then repackage her as a heel. She had a little bit of controversy with the way that she acted on an entrance a few months ago. The internet weren't happy with her. A bit of a strange one. She acted like a heel and then got abuse for acting like a heel. Unfortunately, she acted like a heel to a child with special needs. So the internet just took offense to that. Of all the people to pick on, why did she pick on that person? So it's a really unfortunate situation, and it feels like WWE have taken her off TV to try and kind of calm down, squash the backlash that she got there. But yeah, so Lacey and Xia, no previous relationship, versus Shotzi and Natalia, who have had a bit of a relationship over the last few weeks. They have tried to build a little bit of a mentor-mentee relationship, and Natalia came out on the tank with Shotzi with a similar aesthetic to Shotzi on the tank, and they really tried to push the fact that they're now a team, that they've not just been thrown together for the sake of this showcase match, but Natalia and Shotzi are a team. And even after SmackDown this weekend, Natty on her Twitter has been putting a few kind of tag team names together for her and Shotzi and some artwork and whatnot. So yeah, they're trying to put it together. And in the match, they had a few tag team, double team moments against Lacey and Xia Li. So even if it's not a long-term thing, or intentional thing from creative, they are trying to take the ball, they are trying to take the opportunity and run with it. So we'll see how that turns out. And the match was all right. It was a decent match. Lacey and Xia Li doing their absolute best with the time they were given to push their heel credentials, trying to work the crowd as much as possible as heels. And I personally think Lacey Evans is a fantastic talent. I think she's a strong promo. She is good in the ring, good move set. It's strange for me as to how she's never got over. I liked the Southern Belle character she played a couple of years ago, but she seems to have fallen out of favour, so it's a bit of a strange one. But as you can tell from this description, Lacey Evans and Xia Li were never going to go forward into the tag match. So of course Natalia and Shotzi got the win and were celebrating in the ring and pointing to the WrestleMania sign, and so were Raquel and Liv. They were also pointing to the WrestleMania sign. And then out comes Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. Ronda Rousey with her arm heavily taped. And after, as I said earlier in the news, after what she'd put on Instagram, she wasn't booked for WrestleMania. Everyone thought she was injured, but she came out with Shayna, and they had a promo about how it was funny that everyone standing in front of them, so Natty, Shotzi, Raquel, and Liv, they'd all injured in some fashion, whether it's a broken nose, a broken arm, a broken hand, or a broken spirit. And so that was a really nice bit of creative, a really nice bit of long-term storytelling, that there's a reason why these 6 women are in a match together. And suddenly this 4-way tag match at WrestleMania suddenly has a point to it. There's suddenly a reason why the 4 faces of Natty, Shotzi, Liv, and Raquel, there's a reason why they're fighting Ronda and Shayna. So I really liked that. It was a really good piece. A little bit of an awkward promo from Ronda again. I don't know what's going on with her. I don't know how they can help her get stronger and more confident in her promos. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm being a bit harsh. Maybe, again, I'm not sure. But regardless, They then said that, as I said in the news, that they are now in the showcase match. So the other teams have had to qualify. Ronda and Shayna have just walked straight into it. Typical heels getting something for nothing. and setting up some interesting intrigue and interesting motivation for that match. But there is still one slot left. I know on Raw they've been trying to push Chelsea Green, trying to argue her way into this match with a partner. It looks like it was going to be with Carmella, but then she's had to be away from WWE for a little bit. We're not sure why. So it'll be interesting to see who that final team is. But this could be. I'm very hesitant, but it could be a good match. It could be a good match. I still think that these tag matches are going to be filler matches, as I said earlier, about managing the card, managing the flow, coming out of a big match like an Omos and Brock or a Hell in a Cell, then you throw one of these fatal four-way tag matches in for the men or the women's as a bit of a palate cleanser. But, the talent is there in the ring, especially with Natty. Liv's been really impressive the last 6 to 12 months. I like Raquel and Shayna and Ronda. They're very talented women. So this could be a good match, and we'll see how it goes. And then we went off for a break, and then when we came back, it was the infamous contract signing for the IC title match. Why creative need to come up with a better formula than just in order to try and have an excuse for bringing people together to do a contract signing. Because it doesn't make sense. Because there's no continuity. Because with every title match, there isn't a contract signing. And with non-title matches, you have contract signings. So it's not like a contract signing is an exclusive part of a title feud. They just seem to roll it out when they don't have another reason to bring certain people together in an episode. So it's a strange one. I don't know what creative can do. But regardless, contract signing for the IC title match, which again potentially, as I've said, with so many matches, could steal the weekend. The talent that is in this IC title match: Gunther, Drew, Sheamus. This will be fantastic. This could main event night one very easily. They've done a really good job of building Gunther. He's the longest reigning IC champion this century. They've built him so strong. They've let him be physical, and I think they've just done really well putting this group of people together. So you've got Gunther and Imperium, you've got Drew, you've got Sheamus, you've got the Brawling Brutes with Butch and Ridge Holland. Just a load of physical people who are happy to have physical matches, who are also all excellent at what they do. And so yeah, just these 6-7 people kind of all crossing paths and coming into matches and whatnot over the last year has been a really smart choice, and it's culminating with this match at WrestleMania. And it was, as contract signings go, obviously there was some shenanigans. Sheamus isn't happy that Drew is kind of worked into the IC title picture, but Drew said that Sheamus has lost against Gunther, so why shouldn't he have a shot? Butch and Ridge Holland are there with Sheamus, and Butch, as is his character as being combustible, he just gets too much of himself and he attacks Gunther, which infuriates Gunther, and so Gunther throws the table out of the ring and demands a match with Butch straight away. And so that goes into a Gunther and Butch match with Drew and Sheamus and Ridge Holland around the side. And this was a really, really good match. Butch, if you don't know him, used to be Pete Dunne in NXT and NXT UK, and he's a fantastic wrestler. And there was lots of the crowd that recognised him. He has the nickname of Bruiserweight when he's the Pete Dunne character, and the crowd were chanting Bruiserweight, which was really nice to hear. And he had a good hard-hitting match with Gunther. But again, as you'd expect, IC title champion isn't going to lose the week before Mania. they covered it up with a bit of distraction, with Drew getting hit by Butch by accident, and then getting cross, and then Sheamus getting involved, and in all the commotion, Gunther did a new finishing move and got the pin on Butch, 1, 2, 3. So a good match, a good way to continue building towards their title match at WrestleMania. And afterwards we got the announcement that with all the shenanigans going on, we would have Drew and Sheamus versus Imperium on SmackDown next week. So the two friends tagging together but unhappy with each other at the minute versus Imperium. Gunther's going to be involved. You know, it should be a good prelude to their match. One more episode, one more opportunity to really build the tension. It should be really good. All the talent involved is really good, so it should be a really good match as well. And then there was another announcement to say, of course, as has become tradition, the Andre the Giant Battle Royale match will take place on SmackDown next week, just before the Hall of Fame that will also take place on SmackDown. So you've got Drew and Sheamus versus Imperium, you've got the Andre the Giant Battle Royale, and you've got the Hall of Fame all on SmackDown next week. So SmackDown the night before WrestleMania Night 1 is going to be huge. Andre the Giant, the Battle Royale, is the traditional, everyone who's not in a feud in a match at WrestleMania gets their shot. It used to be on WrestleMania, and it used to be the excuse to get, you know, all the lower card talent to have at least some time at WrestleMania, to at least have a moment. They've now moved it to the night before Mania. But it's interesting. Some of the people that are on the graphic for this include Bobby Lashley, include LA Knight, and a few other mid to top card talent that you'd question as to why are they in the Andre the Giant Battle Royale. So I think personally, sat here right now on Monday afternoon, I think that because of what's happened with Bobby Lashley and Bray Wyatt, there's either going to be some last minute interruption from Bray Wyatt, and Bray and Bobby are going to have their match at WrestleMania all along if Bray's recovered. If not, I wouldn't be surprised if they use this as an opportunity to put Bobby and LA Knight together. Top tier face versus an up and coming mid to top tier heel. LA Knight needs to be an LA WrestleMania. I'm fully in with his promo at the minute of you can't have an LA WrestleMania without LA Knight. The LA Knight needs to give WrestleMania an LA Knight moment. I'm completely in on that. You also can't not have Bobby Lashley on the WrestleMania card. You can't. So I'm really hoping that, yes, this is normally seen as and it's a bit cruel, but the jobber match. But you've got some good talent in there, so I'm wondering if they're going to use this to try and set up some kind of Bobby and LA Knight match for Mania, which would be good because they're great talents and they deserve to have spots on the Showcase of the Immortals. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But then to close out SmackDown, we had a very special episode of The KO Show with Kevin Owens and his special guest Sami Zayn. And the reason why I say it like that isn't just because I enjoyed it, which I did, but also because for me, Kevin Owens was continuing what I thought he was hinting at last week, or was it on Raw, where it's fantastic. Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, both good guys, both faces, best friends, brothers, going against the Usos, makes perfect sense. We all want to see it. Fantastic. But Kevin Owens seems to be layering in just even now, even though they're right at the start of this big pop, this big face run, he's still layering in some kind of descent where he just, and some people online found it a bit confusing. I'm hoping that it's, instead of Kevin Owens trying to be a bit of a weird humor, I'm hoping that it's Kevin Owens trying to lay the groundwork for something further down the line, where he essentially comes out and he says to Sami, "Oh, did you enjoy your introduction, did I do it right? And having a separate introduction, we came out together on Raw, and then but you said backstage that you wanted to do it separately so the crowd could kind of hear your music separately. And Sami was a bit confused about, Kevin, what are you talking about? And it kind of had the vibe of Kevin Owens having this little bit of jealousy and this little bit of a kind of chip on his shoulder about how popular Sami is, and Sami having a bit of a big head about how popular he is. That's how it came across to me. I don't, feel free to kind of comment otherwise. But then again, it was a strange change of pace, because then after doing that, Kevin Owens was then very complimentary of Sami and said that there was one MVP for WWE over the last 12 months, and it was, of course, Sami Zayn. And then the segment turned into essentially a glorified promo for some brand new merch. Now, if if you've been watching wrestling for a few years, you'll know every year this time of year, Kevin Owens comes out with some kind of KO branded WrestleMania shirt, his own WrestleMania shirt, KO Mania, and he normally just puts like the KO duct tape over the wrestle part of the annual WrestleMania logo. And that's all well and good. And he showed off this new t-shirt. And of course, KO Mania goes Hollywood. But he said this year, because Sami has been so impressive, that he's done something different. And he's put that KO Mania on the back of the shirt, but he's put something else on the front of the shirt. And so Sami Zayn opens it up, and lo and behold, it says WrestleZania. You've got the duct tape with Zayn written over the main bit. And so it says WrestleZania. And of course, there's all the long-term story echoes of when Roman gave Sami the honorary Uso shirt live on SmackDown. And Sami, opened the shirt and had the big pop reaction. And then again, with this WrestleZania shirt, again, opened it up, got the big pop reaction. Really excited. So yeah, a good segment. The reason why I'm saying it was just an opportunity to sell merch is because nothing, except for just establishing the fact that Sami and KO are friends, which we already know, nothing really happened in this segment. I mean, even right at the end, when the Usos came out to attack KO and Sami, they started hugging because they were so happy with their current life and situation and their friendship. But whilst they were hugging, the Usos jumped them, attacked them, and then jumped out of the ring. And then, of course, KO went off to get a chair and was standing in the ring and was kind of facing off, and Sami was recovering. And then SmackDown went off the air. So I think last week you had KO and Sami, getting one up on the Usos to close out the show, and then this week you had the Usos getting one up on KO and Sami. So building towards their undisputed tag team title match at Mania. Nothing really happened, but all the build has been done for this match. So, they kind of had to fill in the episode. They kind of had to fill in the space because you've already got the build for this match. It's going to be really interesting. This is going to be really interesting as to what's going to happen at Mania. And this kind of brings me into my thoughts about Mania. We're less than a week away, and I genuinely don't know what's going to happen. Oftentimes you can kind of see what direction they're going at, or you can kind of think, oh well, it's a lesser pay-per-view, so the titles aren't going to change hands. You genuinely don't know if Roman is going to drop the belts for Cody, or if he's going to keep them and hit 1,000 days, which coincides with the Saudi show in a couple of months' time. You genuinely don't know if the Usos are going to lose their titles to KO and Sami, or if this is just match one in a program of 2 or 3 where they get to WrestleMania Backlash and that's the big title changes, that's when they take the titles off them, or if it keeps rolling through to SummerSlam. Genuinely don't know. Genuinely don't know if Sheamus or Drew are going to take the IC title off Gunther. There's so many. Like, I think the only thing that is probably set for WrestleMania is that Edge is going to beat Finn. Like, I think that's the only thing that is like beyond doubt, is that Edge will beat Finn. The rest of it is all up for grabs, which is fantastic, because as much as it's really nice to speculate, and it's half of the fun to speculate who's going to do what, I love the fact that I'm going to go into WrestleMania this weekend. I'm going to be there in person in the arena, and I'm not going to know. I'm not going to know. Similar to when I went to Cardiff for Clash of the Castle and it was Drew versus Roman. Genuinely, I flipped so many times that weekend. Who's going to win? Is it going to be Roman? Is it going to be Drew? Oh, it's got to be Drew because it's his home pay-per-view. So flip backwards and forwards. Austin Theory comes out. Oh, so he's going to screw Drew over by cashing the title. But then Tyson Fury hits Austin Theory and then Roman does the thing. Like, it was fantastic. The atmosphere in that building. Because it was a genuine knife edge. It could go either way. And looking back, yes, of course it was going to be Roman. So who knows? We could do WrestleMania this year. Roman could keep the titles. And looking back, the way they do it, you could think, of course Roman's going to keep the titles. Or, of course it makes sense that that's how Roman would win. You know, maybe Randy Orton comes back and gives Cody a KO. And that sets up Randy and Cody for the next 3-4 months. And so, of course, that's just, you know, naturally sets things up. And so you look back and go, of course, that was going to happen. But right now at the moment, as a full wrestling fan and mark, I genuinely don't know, because Cody could finish the story. The Sami and KO could start bringing down the bloodline. This WrestleMania weekend could be the story of the bloodline disintegrating and everybody losing their belts. Or it could be everybody retaining their belts and being stronger than ever. It could go either way, and that's really exciting. But to wrap up this episode, a solid episode of SmackDown. Good bits, some good matches, some good promos. Felt a little bit of a filler with a week to go before Mania, but a good episode nonetheless, and well worth the watch. And there you have it, episode 4 of Imagine the Pop Wrestling Podcast in the can, recapping this week's SmackDown. Thank you so much for downloading, for streaming, for being here with us, if of course you are still here. It's really appreciate you taking the time to include us in your week. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please feel free to get in touch with your own thoughts, ideas, questions at Imagine the Pop on TikTok and Twitter. Would love to hear from you. And as we're recording this, it is Monday, the 27th of March, which means Raw is just hours away. The last Raw, the go-home show Raw before WrestleMania is just hours away. So we look forward to seeing that tonight. We'll have another recap of it, another show recapping that later this week. It might be a bit rushed because I am traveling, because as you may have gathered from what I've alluded to, I'm going to WrestleMania, baby. That's right. From the UK all the way over to the US of A, to Los Angeles. I'm getting on a plane tomorrow, and I will be landing Wednesday sometime. I'll be trying to fight off jet lag and make sure that I'm ready for a full week of events, WrestleCon and SmackDown and Undertaker's one-man show and NXT Stand and Deliver, WrestleMania Night 1 and 2 and Raw. So hopefully jet lag isn't going to screw me. I've got a plan. Don't worry, I've got a plan. But yes, so I'm about to go into a very busy week of traveling and activity. I will try to get a Raw recap up for you. I will also try and record some mini episodes whilst I'm away with updates and reactions to all the excitement of WrestleMania week, all the different things, the people that I've seen, the experiences that I've had, the feelings and the emotions coming out of the shows, and trying to kind of process and put it all into words. And I hope that when those go live, you enjoy them, and hopefully that adds to your overall experience of WrestleMania week, wherever you are this week and this weekend. But as always, let me leave you with this thought. So imagine the pop. Imagine the pop when Rey Mysterio and Dom Mysterio are fighting. Dom's got the upper hand through some underhanded action, probably a low blow, something like that. But then Rey's wife, Dom's mum, comes out and slaps Dom across the face, turning into a 619 from Rey Mysterio and getting the pin 1, 2, 3. Imagine the pop when that happens. Thank you guys and take care.